Hi, folks. I'm Jamie Hiles.
I'm Lydia Judy.
I'm Derek Lemaster.
This is Scream Bloody Movies, the podcast where we review a horror movie each week, like Frankenstein, go over the horror news, and we realize it's alive, guys.
It's alive.
You know what? That reminds me, there's a Pierce Brosnan sketch on SNL where he's like this handsome Frankenstein, but with buck teeth. And
What?
he says, "It's alive." I'm going to put it
amazing.
right here. It's excellent.
Good.
You guys will love it.
That's funny.
How's it going tonight?
Oh man, it's a rough day.
Yeah, I feel that. I've had one myself.
I had a friend stay over. This is my son. He had to stay home from daycare because he vomited in my car yesterday. But hey, other than that, it's great.
Good. How about you, Lydia? You have anybody vomit in your car?
Nobody vomited in my car, but I did get
Lucky.
some things done. I checked things off my checklist today. I finished my series of murals that I've been doing for like 2 months and got those out of my living room. So I decided to celebrate and vacuum and shampoo my carpets.
That is, you are a party animal. The way you celebrate is just too intense for my taking.
Yeah, the next time you celebrate, come over to my house.
Yeah, no shit.
I'll bring the shampooer.
Okay.
I don't have a lot of carpet, but we can totally mop. It's fine.
That's I did that first. I mopped, and then it was raining all day, so I kept letting the dogs out because they're afraid of the vacuum. So I let them out, and they're tracking in mud, and I had to mop 3 more times.
That's funny. You see, my dogs are afraid of rain, so they won't go. Well, Remy is. The other two are fine. They don't care about it. But Remy's like, fuck that. I mean, we were at work all day, but if we were home, he would have just been sitting right beside us. Do you see this rain? Seriously. Yeah, I see it, buddy. It's fine.
Is it too lazy to get it like a Roomba?
No, Roombas are great.
I wish I had a Roomba.
If I knew my dogs wouldn't destroy it, Sarah and I were talking about getting a Roomba. I think what will happen, I think they'll just run away from it for sure. But I can just see Remy being like, no!
Yes. I literally already had this conversation with Jamie's wife today about getting a Roomba, and your dog's tearing.
Yeah, but they'd be terrified. Remy would at least. And Lily would want to play with. She'd think it's her new best friend.
What is that?
Lily knows no enemies and is very inquisitive. So she would be all up in that.
Love it.
She also thinks she's a smaller dog than she is. So
yes, she's very big. She's near 100-pound golden retriever, and she tries to sit on everyone's lap.
She just wants to be a lap dog.
And I let her because I'm her dad. So
yeah, she's a beautiful girl.
She is a sweet girl. She's a sweet girl. Here's a picture of her right here. She is a sweetie. So, guys, I scoured the webs for the most recent of news related to the horror genre. Or as we like to call it here in Scream Bloody Movies, the horror news. So let's get into it. Let's start with this one here first. There is a new slasher from screenwriter Kevin Williamson called Sick that is on the way. It is directed by John Hyams, the son of Peter Hyams, and the director of the more recent Universal Soldier movies. So take that how you will. But he is directing from a story by Kevin Williamson. Here's the plot synopsis. Due to the pandemic, Parker and her best friend decide to quarantine at the family lake house alone. Or so they think. It is right now running at the Toronto International Film Festival. We don't have like a full release for it, but it's running at the TIFF from September 8th to the 18th. What do you guys think of that plot synopsis?
Could be interesting. It depends on what direction they go with it, but could be interesting.
I'm sure it'll be at least interesting since Kevin Williamson wrote the story, right? I mean, he's Kevin Williamson. He is a great writer when he wants to be. I mean, just look at the first Scream to know that. And then his other writing efforts are maybe lesser, but still decent. You know, The Faculty, Teaching Miss Tingle. He also wrote the script for I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Mm.
Of course, created Dawson in His Creek. Both. He created both. So that sounds interesting, right? A little topical horror, except a little later because hopefully we're done with lockdowns for a while. We'll see.
So since you brought this up, I have got one like critique of Dawson's Creek that I just want to get out there.
Okay.
Nobody fucking talks like that. Nobody. That was the one issue I had with that entire series, especially in the beginning. Like, there's no teenager that I knew. It was hard for me to relate to it because anytime that they would have like long dialogue scenes, I'm just like, that doesn't sound real. No one I know talks like that. Anyway,
I don't know. I was a Spielberg obsessed teen like Dawson. So
I mean, his hobby is relatable, but his vocabulary is not.
You might be correct. Well, now welcome to our new podcast. Fuck Dawson's Creek.
Do you remember?
By Derek Lemaster.
Well, since we're on grammar, not that I am one to talk, but do you remember you and I got into a chat argument with some guy and started calling him Captain Period?
Yes. That was back in the day. Kids, this was back in the day. There used to be these things called chat rooms. Okay. And during these chat rooms, we got into some argument with some guy for some reason. And after every thing he said, he would put a period. He would just always put a period, no matter what. And also no other punctuation. When there should be a comma, it was a period. Just always period. So Derek called him Captain Period, and he got so mad because he didn't understand why.
Jamie, do you realize how long ago that was?
Oh yeah, it was like 20 years ago, probably.
It's really close, between
about 15 years.
Yeah, 15 and 18 years ago. Oh my gosh.
Well, yeah. You know what's funny is
Lydia's like, that's like most of the time I've been alive.
Yeah.
Whatever, Lydia. Judging us over there.
There's this funny story that my dad always told me. It has nothing to do with the internet, but it has to do with people not understanding names.
Yeah.
When he was a kid, he and they were in high school. He and three of his buddies. Basically, there's this kid, and one of my dad's friends was like, "Hey, you want to see what's his face get mad?" And they're like, "What? What are you gonna do?" So he just called this guy for no reason Molly Molly. Just said Molly Molly. And the guy got pissed and chased him around the lunchroom, right? So the principal called him in, all of them. And my dad's friend literally said this. He's like, I know when you said it. Who said it? So my dad's friend said, well, I didn't say it. Or no, how did he say it? He's like, I know Tony didn't say it. And I just moved my mouth. So it probably was Rick. So I always did that. Something will happen, and I'll say, "Well, I don't know. I just moved my mouth."
Oh my
That's
goodness.
great. All right. Next bit of horror news. Keanu Reeves, our favorite, is starring in a new Martin Scorsese serial killer series called The Devil in the White City. That's all I have to tell you guys. And I mean, we'll continue on. But what do you guys think of just that bit of news?
Interesting.
I love the
What
title.
serial
The title
killer?
is amazing.
And Martin Scorsese and Keanu Reeves. I'm in. So they will executive produce it. He and Leonardo DiCaprio, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio will executive produce the series. And it is, it tells the true story of two men, an architect and a serial killer whose fates were forever linked by the Chicago World's Fair of 1893. The players are Daniel H. Burnham, a brilliant and fastidious architect racing to make his mark on the world, and Henry H. Holmes, a handsome and cunning doctor who fashioned his own pharmaceutical murder castle on the fairgrounds. Derek, you and I
We're
talked about
just
this.
talking about this.
We just talked about this.
Like not last week. Was
Really?
it last week or the week? Yeah, no kidding. Like we just talked about this.
We were working on
within the last week or
we were talking about the
last
the
Monday.
movie. Yes, we were talking about the movie project, and we were fleshing some stuff out. And then Derek's like, "Hey, have you ever heard of that murder house or the murder hotel?" And I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, H.H. Holmes, okay." And then we were like, "Oh, that's good. We should put a pin in that. There's probably a story there." And then Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio were like, "We know."
They were like, "All right, we've got our idea. Let's go with it, guys. You're welcome."
We're gonna one up you and throw on Keanu Reeves. It's gonna be on Hulu, by the way. What do you guys think of this? Will you guys watch it?
Hell yeah.
I think they
I don't
got
even
one
have
on you
Hulu.
guys.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
She said she thinks they got one up on us.
Yeah, everything from funding to like talent, but whatever.
Guys, this is a cool one. Russell Crowe is starring in a movie called The People's Exorcist, which is based off of he stars as a real life exorcist, Father Gabriel Amorth. It is directed by Julie Savory, who did Overlord, if you guys have seen that. We don't really have much of a synopsis except that it's the legendary Italian priest who performed over 100,000 exorcisms for the Vatican. He lived to be
100,000.
He lived to be 91. Passed away in 2016. What do you guys think of this idea? Russell Crowe in an exorcism movie?
Sure.
Does that one already happen?
I don't think Russell Crowe's ever been in an exorcism movie. He's
I
been
think
in Gladiator.
pretty well, so maybe I'm picturing Gladiator. Same thing,
They're
right?
so similar.
What was the movie that he was in with Ryan Gosling?
The Nice Guys?
Yeah, The Nice Guys.
Nice Guys is fucking great.
It is pretty
We need a sequel to The Nice Guys. Make it happen.
Yeah. Come on.
That movie is so funny. You guys want to see what Russ looks like? Russ. I call him Russ because we're good buddies.
Yep. Let's see what old Russell's up to.
Me and Russ Wilson over here. Okay. He looks great. Look at this. That's the screenshot we have.
Yeah,
And that lighting is awesome. What do you guys think?
The lighting does look pretty good, yeah.
Handsome as ever.
I like Russell Crowe. I think he's great. He has
He's got a great
Right.
voice.
Yeah, he does. He's Jor-El.
He is. He was also man. What was the movie where he was a computer program? Denzel Washington?
No?
No, that was Keanu
No.
Reeves.
Yeah, it's Keanu Reeves. It's right on the tip of my tongue. I know the movie you're talking about. Yeah, that one. God dang it. Sidebar. Virtuosity.
Virtuosity, yeah.
That's it.
yeah.
Knew I had to figure it out. It was going to bug me. I'd have been talking about Frankenstein and being like, what the fuck is that Russell Crowe movie?
It's my this is you don't know this, but this is a game that I play. Can I stump Jamie and make him sidetrack to get on IMDb?
Yeah,
I
didn't even.
won this week.
Yeah, you did. I knew the movie you were talking about. I just couldn't.
Yeah, I could see, like, I could watch like see frames of it in my head.
Yeah, I could too.
It's a weird
Okay,
movie. Anyway,
so this is great. James Wan, Ingrid Bizu team with R.H. Norman and Michelle Pitt for a body horror film.
body horror.
Yeah, so James Wan and wife Ingrid Bisu made *Malignant* last year. So they're teaming up to serve as executive producers for this movie called Cosmetic, which is written and directed by the Michelin Pitt and R.H. Norman. And the plot line is the beauty industry colliding the worlds of glamour and body horror in a supernatural tale of one girl's daily pursuit of perfection.
You know what's going to be a sad thing? Is that they don't even necessarily have to come up with anything. Like, there are so many stories out there that you could adapt to something like that. That it's imitating life is what I'm trying to get at. So interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think they're going to go even more nefarious with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Would you consider *Malignant* a body horror movie?
Yes, I would. I'd consider it a lot of things. It's body horror. It's a giallo movie. I feel like it's definitely a giallo movie, right? I mean, we have an unseen killer with gloves on, murdering people, and it's a mystery. It's a giallo movie. And then it's a action movie. Turns into like a kick-ass action movie in that third act.
You know, I'm not poking fun of it, but it does remind me of a Tom Green skit.
Tom Green. What, Backwards Man?
Backwards Man. Going as fast as you can.
Tom Green is something. I talked to my coworker about Tom Green today and was like, why was Tom Green a thing? It's like, I don't get it.
I mean, you know,
I remember being a kid and watching Freddy Got Fingered because it was, you know, popular, and then I was like, nope, I don't get it.
You know what movie I had that same reaction to?
What?
A Million Ways to Die in the West. Like, I watched that movie and I was like, I don't get. I mean, I understand what they were trying to do, but it just did not appeal to me.
I like some of Million Ways to Die in the West. There's some scenes that I think are really funny. Like, I think it's absolutely hilarious when Doc Brown is just in the shed with the DeLorean. That's
I mean, not the entire movie is crap, but like just the most of the movie.
Come on, that scene was hilarious.
That scene was pretty funny.
Yeah. We watch a lot of Family Guy and American Dad and things like that at our house. So it was like right up our alley.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the Ted movies are like pretty hilarious. I love a lot of stuff that he does, but yeah, not that. He's a classical singer, I think.
He is. He sings standards.
That's crazy.
He's great at it. He's like a crooner.
Yeah, and he's got a 9/11.
Seth MacFarlane's like super talented. He's like super talented. It's kind of crazy how talented he is.
Yeah, it is. I think about it a lot when I'm watching the show. I'm just like, dang, dude, this is wild. I keep finding out that he is like all the characters that
he's a lot of them.
I'm like, oh, this must be someone else, and it's just him.
Yeah, and he has the Orville, which is really great sci-fi. It's basically the best Star Trek on TV is the Orville. Good stuff. Oh, and then he uses his powers, all of these, like skills to make fart jokes. So, right up my alley.
Oh my gosh.
Guys.
I know we're sidetracked, but I got to tell you this because it's really funny. So Quincy said something to me in the car when we were going to get dinner today. And she was like, oh yeah, she took a bite of pizza. And I was like, did you, because it was stuffed crust. I was like, did you do it from the front or the back? And she was like, just the tip. And I was like, just to see how it feels. And she was like, why do you guys think that that's funny? I was like, I don't know. I mean, it was in a movie.
I think that's where the art of negotiation started, actually.
I think it is too.
That was the first negotiation.
just to see how it feels.
Jeez Louise.
Sorry, Lydia.
So, guys,
My wife's fault.
this is something we've been talking about, like not all the time, but we mentioned it a few times when it first came out. But we now have the first poster for Orphan First Kill.
I think I saw this. Good.
You guys
job.
want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's check it out. All right, let me pull up the old technology. You guys see that? That's the wrong one. Don't look at that yet. Right there. It looks really great, I think.
It looks spooky.
What do you think, Derek?
I think she looks a little older because she doesn't have the baby fat from when she was younger, but still it looks good.
Well,
Yeah,
that looks
I think
super edited though.
yeah, but the poster itself is a cool poster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's her from
It
the
has,
trailer.
like a black light, kind of like a black light look.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I will watch it. I didn't hate the first one. I thought it was pretty good.
I've never seen the first one.
Really?
What?
Yeah.
Dude.
You liked it, right,
Talk
Lydia?
about it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. What to do an episode on that? If we only had a podcast where we reviewed horror movies, we could talk about it.
Man, dang it.
One day. Put it in the
We
queue.
can dream. We can
I
dream.
need to make a list. Because I keep coming up with like good ones and then I keep forgetting. And
Forget
I'm
about
like, and I just blurt one out like
Yeah, you're like, oh, let's
Oh.
watch Candyman again. We already did it.
You
yeah.
wait. You're
No,
gonna
I was like,
be mad at my
I'm
next
just
one.
gonna pick. Uh-oh. I was just
You're like, Puppet Master 4.
Jamie's last one that he didn't pick.
Yeah, that is what I'll recycle. At least you're being environmentally conscious. And then this last bit of news is Ann Dowd joins Ellen Burstyn in the new Exorcist sequel by David Gordon Green. So this is her character is a player who tracks down Chris McNeil after his child becomes I'm sorry. I don't know who she's playing, but let's see where we are here. Leslie Odom Jr., who is the lead of the movie, tracks down Chris McNeil after his child becomes possessed. That's actually the plot, which I don't think we had the synopsis last time. So that's at least the gist of it, which is kind of cool, right?
Mhm.
Seeking the woman whose child was possessed to try to figure out what's going on. Especially since the priest characters are all dead, right? I mean, Father Marion's dead, Damien's dead. Detective Kinderman's definitely deceased by this point because George C. Scott was old in the 90s. So, what do you guys think about this? Are you excited to see where this goes?
I am excited. I want to see a trailer or something, you know.
Mhm.
Then I'll base my judgments on the trailer very harshly. Sure.
I don't think I like it. What's with this weird coloring?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking of the Munsters. Because
Oh,
we were
man.
so kind to that trailer. Oh boy. Poor Rob. He's just minding his own business, digging through ditches and burning through witches, and here we come.
Yes.
And
Love it.
and that wraps up this week's horror news. So yeah, I'm excited for the new Exorcist. I'm cautiously optimistic about the concept of a new Exorcist movie. The last several have not been good. Though I did enjoy Fox's the TV show with Gina Davis. I thought it was pretty good.
It didn't run very long, right?
I think 2 seasons, something like that.
Really, it had 2 seasons. I vaguely remember seeing an advertisement for it, but I don't recall anything beyond that.
It was pretty good. I mean, Gina Davis is great in it. You would hope that they would have cast another actor in that part. maybe Linda Blair, but it's what it is. But all in all, it was a good show. It's time to talk about tonight's movie. I like how your mood lighting, Lydia. You kind of look like old Frank. You have some Frank going on.
That's what I was going for.
I mean, the first thought we got to talk about. So we're going to do Frankenstein. And before, let's just get out of the way at the beginning. Derek, was this in color or black and white?
Motherfuckers.
You watched it in color. I know he did. Say it. Say you watched it in color.
The thing is,
I did learn some sign language. If you guys want me to reveal that
from this movie.
Anyway,
so Frankenstein, guys. Let's talk about our experiences. Lydia, this is your pick. So I know this isn't your first time watching this. What's your experience with good old Boris Frankenstein? Swear it's just water in here, guys. I swear.
Well, I remember Frankenstein since I was born. I'm just born with it. It's always there. It's always right here, Yeah, I think the first time I actually sat down and paid attention to it, I feel like this is a hard one for kids to probably sit through nowadays, or in the 90s even. But I was a little bit older when I actually paid attention to it, and it really, it really hits you. It makes you think about things. And I just always loved it because of the look of it. It just looks amazing. And the backgrounds and the scenery and the makeup and just everything is so just wonderful to just vibe with. And it really makes me want it to be Halloween really bad.
Yeah, I can see that. Derek, we'll get into all the stuff you talked about, Lydia, for sure. There's a lot of German expressionism that was very big influence on the making of the movie. We're going to have a film class today, guys. Derek, what is your experience with old Frankenstein?
So I probably haven't seen this movie since I was 7 or 8.
Oh, wow.
It's been decades since I've seen this movie. And some of it is vaguely familiar, right? Obviously, there's the scenes that you've seen in commercials and things like that, or reenacted. But a lot of it was surprising because I don't remember watching this much, but I do remember sitting in front of a TV when I was a kid, a younger kid, and watching this movie. It didn't quite have an impact on me like it did Lydia, but
yeah, I mean, here's the thing about when we talk about movies like Frankenstein and eventually Todd Browning's Dracula, is that these are movies that are just ingrained into pulp culture, right? I mean, Derek and I were born in the 80s, late 80s for me, by the way. But we were born in the 80s and grew up in the 90s. And in the 90s, there was a huge renaissance of Frankenstein imagery. I mean, Frankenstein, the Karloff image with the flat head, the bolts, the green was shorthand for Halloween, like you said, Lydia. So it had permeated pop culture so much that, like you alluded to, it was kind of always there. You see it when you're a kid, you're like, what's that? And your parents say, oh, that's Frankenstein. Which is incorrect. It's actually the monster or the creature. Actually, it's not Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that sort of thing. And I had a similar to like both of you, really. Because on the one hand, I always knew who Frankenstein was because it had permeated pop culture. And secondly, I remember sitting in front of a TV and watching it at a very young age, like you, Derek. But when I and similar to you, Lydia, I didn't really appreciate it because as a kid I liked it because I love. See, here's the secret. I loved black and white movies because I grew up watching them on my grandpa's lap. We'd watch the Three Stooges and Abbott and Costello movies, and especially Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. So that was my actual introduction to the Frankenstein monster, was that movie. And then it was when I was about in 5th or 6th grade on Turner Classic Movies. They were showing all the old Universal movies. And that was the time I actually sat down and watched it. And then it's been in my life ever since. Like every Halloween, I watch Dracula and Frankenstein. I watch John Carpenter's Halloween on Halloween night, Dracula, Frankenstein, Trick or Treat, and It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Those are always in the rotation around Halloween time. So, yeah, it's always been there. And so it wasn't... I legitimately, guys, could have not watched this movie this week and 100% knew all of it. Like while I was watching it, I was just like, yeah, okay, this is gonna happen. This is gonna happen. I've watched it so many times. Once I bought the DVD in high school, after high school, it's just been every year. Once a year, I watch this goddamn thing. So yeah, it's right in here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I realize now that I have more copies of this than I have anything else in my collection. I have like 4 copies of this movie for some reason. And they're
you
all
could have
just
lent
like
one
random,
to Derek.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, it's like I watch it every year, like a couple times a year usually.
So this is your Evil Dead 2.
Because
Because you know how I own... If I could find it, I'd probably own that motherfucker on Betamax. So how did I buy Evil Dead 2?
I actually have the Frankenstein poster that if you've been watching our podcast long enough, you would recognize it. But it's in my living room now. It's got it. It's the first thing you see, like when you walk in my house, pretty much.
That's good. That's good. So guys, let's kind of start talking about it. What do you guys want to talk about first? You want to talk about Karloff? We got to talk about Karloff, right?
Yes.
One disclaimer that I will throw out there, and I mentioned it to you, is movies have changed. So this movie is almost 100 years. It's 90 plus years old. It's going to be 100.
It's almost 90
in the next decade.
Yeah, it's almost 90 because, well, I mean, it's 91 years old. 91 years old.
Yeah.
It was made in 1931. Yeah.
Yeah. So, movies have changed so much over the course of that period of time that you do have to look at a movie like this. I think, at least for me, like I had to look at it through a lens of the time period that it was made and just like the technology that was available. And you and I had a discussion about this and, how it kind of like redefined some things as far as the way that movies were made, which is really amazing. So I really had to keep that in mind because it is a different type of movie. It's got a much different pace. It's in black and white. I'm looking at you, Lydia. So
yeah.
Just a disclaimer.
No, yeah, that's true. That's very true. I would say we'll get in more into it as well, but I think that James Whale's Frankenstein created the cinematic language for horror movies. Todd Browning's is the first talking supernatural horror movie, but I think James Whale's Frankenstein set the template for what you do moving forward because there's just so many great advancements that this movie made, and people still cite today, especially its sequel, Bride of Frankenstein, is even more technically sound. Because there's some special effect shots in Bride of Frankenstein that are still fucking mind-blowing. You're like, wow, that's good stuff. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about the first one. So let's start with talking about good old Boris Karloff. Guys, what do you guys think about Boris Karloff's portrayal of the monster?
I love Boris Karloff. um, I love the way he looks so much. Sometimes I actually do have a little bit of criticism toward him though, because I mean he like created this and he is brilliant for doing things that he did. But as I was watching it, I was like, I think he's moving a little bit too fast. Like I kind of want him to like be slower and like bulkier and like you know what I mean? Like he moves quick in this movie. Like he is.
It's because he's
like Frankenstein.
Young and vital.
Yeah, I guess so. I think that's really my only complaint, though.
I think his portrayal is pitch perfect. What he conveys under heavy grease makeup with just his eyes is phenomenal. Like the empathy he creates for this character, because make no mistake about it, the monster may be the antagonist, but he's created to be this way. He didn't ask for it. So there's an empathy for him that you feel. And it's all through Karloff's movements and his eyes, mostly his eyes. And while we're talking about it, go ahead. How do you feel about it, Derek?
Well, I'm yeah, so he grunts in this movie. He has no dialogue, but like the expressionism that he brings to this character is excellent. And there's a couple of scenes like whenever he's with the little girl and she is like throwing the flowers and it just makes him so happy.
Yeah.
Because I mean he's seeing this for the first time and he's kind of like a toddler.
He is a child.
Was just been born. I mean, and to that he kind of a simple person. And it's a byproduct of what happened to him. And so like the way that he brings that expressionism to the character, I do think that he did a fantastic job for the movie that they were trying to make.
Yeah, and while we're talking about that the scene with the flowers, the flower girl scene, she's also the first person that has treated him like, like a person.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is treating him like a monster or a creature or, very badly,
Yeah.
And she's the first one to take him by the hand, show him kindness. So he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand that she can't swim. So when he throws her in, he's expecting her to float too. And when she doesn't, he's devastated and petrified.
And
he
scared.
Doesn't know what he just did. Yeah. He doesn't understand. And so it just creates such a dynamic, interesting villain, quote unquote. And while we're talking about it, let's talk about Jack Pierce's makeup design. Revolutionary, this makeup design.
It's so cool.
I mean, 100 years later, we're still talking about it. We're still seeing it everywhere. It's revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you see somebody with the things or a flat top or, you instantly know. I mean, and it could be on... I've seen a couple of Frankensteins where that's the only thing that they have, and you're just like, I know what that is a reference to.
You're Frankenstein. Yep. Or if somebody has a flat top, oh, you're Frankenstein.
I would only hope that I could do something in my life that 100 years from now, somebody is like, yep, I know that that is from, this specific thing. It's something that I did. You can only hope for that if you're in movie making.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just such an iconic makeup job. I remember watching the behind the scenes and they talk about, the first time the monster's revealed, because they didn't show him in the press leading up to it. So when you saw him on films the first time that people saw him, and he was terrifying because they've never seen anything so grotesque in their lives. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and that is going back to, trying to understand the time that this movie came out with, right? Because we look at that now and it's so tame, but for the time, I'm sure they were like, what is this? I've always thought this, and it's just a thought experiment, but could you imagine taking a movie from today and showing it to somebody who like was ripped out of the 1930s, you would literally like melt their mind. Like they would think monsters were real.
Yeah, show them Godzilla vs. Kong. This is a documentary from my time.
Yeah, monsters have ruled the world.
Yeah. We have really good cameras now.
Yeah. We have them on these things. They're called telephones.
Oh my God, can you imagine showing somebody a cell phone? I remember that, like, the portable televisions back in the day that were like giant fucking boxes like this and
that
black
were the
and white.
coolest.
Yeah, and you're like, I can't believe it. You can take it anywhere and pulling up your antennas to try to get reception. And it's a screen this big. I mean, black and white.
Yep. Stand over there. Yeah, there you go. There it is. I think I'm picking up CBS 4.
Yeah.
Trying to get in the football game. Can't tell where the football is, but I think this little dot's running to that side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant stuff. Brilliant makeup design and Karloff. What do you guys think of the other characters in the movie? I think Colin Clive as Henry Frankenstein is awesome in this movie too.
Oh yeah, he is great.
His accent and the way that he speaks is like kind of mesmerizing.
Yeah. He's got a great voice.
Is that too weird to say? But so like there's some dialogue in this movie that is so ahead of its time that you're just like
absolutely.
And the way he delivers it and the way that he says it, you're just like it's kind of captivating. It's really great. I loved his performance in this movie. I really hate his accountability and his like cavalierness in the way he created this monster with no plan.
yeah haphazardly.
That's very frustrating.
Yeah,
he did a great job.
Yeah, his performance is great. My favorite, there's a couple of great standout moments. Of course, there's the laboratory scene, the actual it's alive moment, which is brilliant and mocked everywhere because it's so iconic, but it's such a brilliant in the line, in the name of God, now I know how it feels to be God.
It's alive! It's alive! In the name of God, now I know what it feels like to be God.
Yes, that was one of the lines that got
like me. Iconic, and it's like, wow, But my favorite bit of acting from him is when he's explaining to them what's going to happen, and he says,
"Quite a good scene, isn't it? One man crazy, 3 very sane spectators."
And that whole monologue he gives is awesome. In the way he performs it, he's talking to us, the audience, when he's doing it. It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colin Clive rules in this movie. Also, who was in this movie, Edward Van Sloan as Dr. Votman, who opens the movie for us. What do you guys think of the little bit that we open the movie with? His little speech to the audience.
Oh my gosh, how crazy is that? That's awesome. Crazy. Like, I don't even have words. Like, you get a warning. You get like a whole
disclaimer.
Like you're in a theater. Like it's like that's just what people were like used to seeing someone like introduce like what you're about to watch. And this is a very like theatrical kind of
What do you think of that bit,
here,
Derek?
It's good. So this is where he had the brains in the jar, right? And he was
No, I'm talking about Dr. Votman. So at the very beginning of the movie, he comes out and addresses, comes on the stage and says, "Mr. Carr Limley feels that it's a bit unkind, blah, 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 blah."
That's not in the cut that I saw.
Oh,
that's a tragedy. The opening scene that I saw were the gravediggers.
Yeah, well, that's how the movie proper starts. Because there's a little scene before the credits start that shows this bit.
Yeah, so I didn't get to see it.
Well, you know awesome. Why that's there. You know why that's there. It's there literally because of the Bible Belt. It's there to tell people, hey, so this movie's talking about being God. And he just wants you to know, don't freak out. He doesn't take God into account, and this is a terrifying tale. It's a morality tale. It was literally there to appease the audience because what they were going to see was so pants-shittingly scary in 1931. They had to put them at ease. Think about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Imagine showing them John Carpenter's Halloween in 1931.
Dude, imagine showing it to people in the 70s, you know?
Yeah.
People were terrified.
Yeah, we know what that we have accounts of people watching that for the first time in 78. They're like, what the fuck?
Oh my gosh. I watched something on it was maybe I Dream of Jeannie, something like that. Anyway, they had to like redo her costume like several times
Yes, it was all about the belly button.
Yeah.
They couldn't show too much belly button. Wild. The Petries also had to sleep in separate beds because even though they have kids, we can't have those motherfuckers fucking.
Yeah. That's not real.
But I'm going to be completely honest with you. If I were Robert Petrie, I'd be hitting up my wife every night. Mary Tyler Moore was gorgeous back in the day.
Scooting those beds together.
Come on, Laura. Let's go. Time to make us another little Petrie. Jesus. Look at us being horny for fucking 1960s Mary Tyler Moore. Rightfully so. She was gorgeous.
Anyway, his fiance in this movie. She
Elizabeth.
legitimately was very pretty lady.
Oh, yes.
And I thought she came across that way as well.
She's very good in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a very strong written woman too. The way she's written is to be like a strong I mean, when we first are introduced to her, we're introduced with a series of close-ups of like we see a picture of Victor, then we see a picture of Henry, then Victor walks in, then the maid walks in, and then we're introduced to Elizabeth. It's a really interesting way to introduce a scene. That's, James Whale being James Whale. We'll talk about him at great length here soon. But even that introduction scene where she's talking with Victor, and we get that little bit of them, there were feelings there between those two. There's a history with those two characters, and he still is carrying a torch for her. Well, I go to the ends of the earth for you. Well, I shouldn't like that. And, like totally 1930s flirting.
Yes.
And she's like, Victor, please.
I know, and just think like 30 years later, you could say, hey there, groovy chick, you're happening a far out way.
And then 30 years from that, Derek gets denied by a woman by using that exact same line.
Yep. And her exact line was, you're not happening at all.
Oh my God.
I was like 10 years old and I just watched the Brady Bunch movie and I was out like playing in the yard and this very pretty lady it was a young girl, but walked down the street and I said that and she was like, you're not happening at all. And I was like, oh.
My heart is
Ouch.
broken.
Yep. That's rejection at the next level. That's okay.
It's tough times, man. Tough times. But
he set it up for her.
She's probably like
set it up and she knocked
strung
it
out
out
on meth now because she didn't give me a chance.
That's probably what happened.
That's pretty dark, man. That
It is pretty
moment.
dark. I hope
That
that
was-
she had a great life. You random lady who walked down the
Still
road.
have-
If you're listening out there, contact Derek. He has some unresolved issues over this moment. Here we are. Here we are, like 20 years later, and he's still talking about, well, more than that, probably like 25 years later. And he's still talking about that moment.
Yeah. Anyway, we should you know who I was really impressed. So one thing that I have against older
Hang on.
movies.
Before you continue, I wanted to say something about Elizabeth real fast.
Go for it.
So when that moment that we're introduced for her, that scene that we're introduced to her, and she talks to Victor, the setup is for Victor to go find Henry. But that's not what happens. Instead, she's like, I'm coming with you.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you don't have to do that. She's like, well, I'm going to. He's my fiance, and I'm a take charge type of person. So she literally is along for the entire adventure. which is
Mhm.
not really common for that day. So that's what I wanted to get across about her toughness.
I have
What were you
something
going to
else
say,
to
Dave?
add to that.
Oh, go ahead.
Just on this scene specifically, that I really like how you can tell that they are like really good friends and they have had feelings for each other, and like he still has strong feelings for her, but like he's not pushy about it. Like that is something that's like in so many movies where all the men are like pushy, and like he's just like, yeah, I know, I'll be here for you forever though. Like I just love you. Like, like he's so like genuine and sweet about it.
He is. He's definitely a simp. I mean, he's
He's
simping for her.
charming and nice, and he's
We
a
are
good
all
friend.
kinds
Like
of
he
offensive.
he
on this
cares.
episode.
Like he just cares, and I
I am-
appreciate that.
I am very offensive tonight. I apologize. Just because, Victor's kind of cucked. It's not a big deal.
So what you're saying, Lydia, is he's in the friend zone and he ain't getting out.
Yeah. He's
No,
made
no, no,
peace
no.
with the fact
That's
that
not
he's
what
the
I'm saying.
mayor of the friend zone.
Yeah.
He's made peace with
No,
it.
no, I don't subscribe to friend zone stuff. It's like she is just
Jamie's
doing her
been to
thing,
the
and
friend
he
zone.
respects it.
He was a resident there for a while.
So was Derek. Derek and I actually met at the friend zone community meeting.
I don't know
Like-
that I.
You're like, we still in the friend zone? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, me too. Cool. Meeting adjourned.
I was never really friends with my crushes.
Oh, so that's even worse. I just stalked them from afar.
I lurked from afar. Oh my god! I wish I
Listen,
had that type of
I
courage.
Listen, I was hanging out in her bushes. What?
I mean, I chased away somebody who was in their bushes. That's what I meant to say.
Anyway, no, I agree.
I don't hang out in bushes.
It's a very good scene. Like the way that their relationship is handled is like you get the history of these characters, and basically you get the feeling that if Henry wasn't in the picture, they would end up together. And almost the impression that she's kind of loyal to Henry, but she really wants to be with Victor to a degree. Like, I mean, there's definitely longing on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
What were you going to say, Derek, about what you were going to give this movie? The thing that you have against old movies?
So yeah, the thing that I have against old movies is the way that the actors sometimes deliver lines, right? Sometimes it doesn't come across as natural. Like
stagey.
Yeah, it's very stagey, right? I thought that the father, Victor's father, and Henry's father, is what I meant to say. He's a duke? No, he's
no,
Baron?
he is the Baron of
Yeah, he's
the
a Baron.
village.
I love his dialogue scenes, especially at the party.
Oh yeah,
I loved like listening to him talk about, you get these people drunk and everybody's happy.
The Baron is great. I love him
He
too.
is great.
I love
enjoyed
the
his
scene
character.
between him and the Burgermaster. That's my favorite. Oh, go away, he says. He's like, yes, what is it? And that old Burgermaster is all like, delivering his little, whenever the wedding occurs, and he's like, the way it's behaving, I don't think there's going to be a wedding. Fucking Burgermaster. He hates him so much.
They're so dramatic. Like, it's so relatable.
I love when he's like, good day, Baron. Good day, Burgermaster. They're just like each other so much. Love it.
I love it. It
Love
literally looks like stuff that's on TV today, but like just said in a different way,
Yeah, yeah. It's like Downton Abbey bullshit. Yeah. Oh
It's
man,
fun.
yeah, I
Fun
love
to
him.
watch.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
do
He
have
does give a great performance, Derek. You're right. He's really fun.
So I have a question for you.
Mhm.
If you were going to try to resurrect somebody from the dead, and you had really scavenged, different parts from different corpses, and even I love the reveal, which I don't actually think that it plays into the character, but I love the reveal when they're like, "Oh, the brain that you took, that you used, was from a criminal."
Yeah.
I actually don't think that that has any bearing on like how the character turned out. But what would be your expectation of the creature that you bring back?
Well, that's the dilemma, right? I mean, you'd be bringing, I would assume, a new life form into the world, so you'd have to teach it everything again, I would think.
That is my that's how I would approach that as well. It's almost as if he expected the person to be like
Like reanimated. Yeah.
yeah, and
Mhm.
he was not expecting to have that type of challenge in front of him.
Well,
and he
it
just
feels
didn't know
like
what to do.
he did, and it feels like there was stuff that we don't see because it's kind of glossed over for the pacing and timing of the movie. You know, like when he says, "Oh, he's been in complete darkness for like 2 days." Which, why would you just keep him in complete darkness for 2 days? I don't understand. Whatever,
Yeah.
Henry. But like he's got this all figured out, and he's yeah, that's a good point. Since we're talking about the abnormal brain, that was in last that was the last second rewrite edition, which I don't love. I think it kind of takes the thought experiment out of it, the nature versus nurture, which is what
Mhm.
Shelley's novel is and what the movie was initially. But they're like, oh well, it's easier for audiences to understand in 1931 shorthand that this was a bad brain, so that's why he's bad. Instead of, and Whale still puts all the stuff in that makes him bad with Fritz and everything. Which, by the way, let's talk about Fritz for a second.
I love Fritz.
I mean, I liked Fritz up until the point where he was like torturing the monster.
Oh yeah, Fritz is
Oh, yeah.
is a douchebag.
No.
He's a terrible.
Yeah.
I love the actor.
Yeah, Dwight
Oh.
Fry.
Clear that up.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, Dwight Fry is great. Yeah, he's brilliant. He's
yeah.
great
I love
always.
him so much.
He's also great as Renfield. When we get to Dracula, we'll talk about that.
Yes.
He's so good.
Love him.
But no, Fritz as a character is a terrible piece of shit.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's
Yeah.
He's whipping him. He's once they learn that fire is kind of like the thing that scares the creature, he's all about like using it against him.
He's tormenting him. Yeah, he's just
yeah.
a mean person.
because he's scared of him.
Yeah, he is scared of him.
Yeah.
But it's something that he can, in his lot in life, he's looked down upon and belittled. So it's something that he can belittle. That's how I always took it. Like
No,
it's something he can have
100%.
control
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, he's
Yep,
got a
yep.
like the power dynamic is shifted from what he's used to, and he's all about that. Yeah, you're totally right. I also didn't know that was a last minute rewrite. That's interesting.
The brain, the abnormal brain. It was in the original draft. It was just he goes and steals a brain, but they also wanted to add like the suspenseful scene of him dropping the brain, and then him having to get it. And I'm glad they did because we wouldn't have had Abby Normal from Young Frankenstein. So thankfully it happens. Abby someone. Abby Normal. You put an abnormal brain in my monster.
Yeah.
Young Frankenstein's fucking 10 out of 10. Great.
For sure.
Let's talk about the creation scene, guys. Now put yourself in 1931 and you're seeing this on the big screen for the first time. All these electrical doodads, the bzz, 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 zip, zip, zips.
The shadows.
The sparks. What do you guys think of this?
I love it.
Lydia loves it.
I love it. I really love it a lot. It makes me sad. And when I look at it, I'm just like, I go back to the 30s and put myself there, and I just soak it all in. Just like, oh my god, can you imagine? And
No,
just like, I love the look of it so much. This is my favorite scene of the whole movie. The creation scene. That's my favorite scene.
it is a showstopper for sure. The lab equipment is iconic. It's been used in pretty much every adaptation of Frankenstein since. The fact that Frankenstein gets brought to, how does Frankenstein get brought to life, guys? If I asked you what brings Frankenstein's monster to life, what would you say?
A bolt of lightning.
Electricity, bolt of lightning. It's not in Shelley's novel, but it's in this movie, and that's now what brings the Frankenstein monster to life.
Mm-hmm.
just iconic. And also just everything, the way it's lit, the way it's paced, the big reveal when he goes up and gets struck, to just the movement of his hand is just such good filmmaking. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It definitely transcended the movie and the time period for sure. It's a staple. Anytime that you talk about anything related to a Frankenstein or even in like an offshoot, it's yeah, it's amazing that it's still relevant today.
Yeah, I agree. This is a good time as any to talk about the director of the film, James Whale. He's awesome, right? So his direction in this movie is just perfect. Also, Lydia, you were talking about German Expressionism in the look of the movie. It was shot by Arthur Edison. And the movie is just beautiful to look at. And the pacing's great. And it's what I love about Whale is the way he moves the camera at certain points. And there's not a staginess to the movie. So we'll talk about Dracula when we get there. And I love Dracula. It's one of my favorites as well. But Dracula is very stagey. Todd Browning didn't adapt very well to sound pictures. It took him a while to get there. James Whale, it was like he was making sound pictures his entire life because it's the use of sounds just in general. The fact that the first thing we hear is the gong of the bell, right? In the opening grave robbing scene. Then we hear the dirt being put on the casket, which was terrifying for audiences in 1931. Hearing dirt be put on top of a casket, that's creepy. And then you go to when the monster's revealed, and before we see him, we get footsteps of the monster arriving, building the anticipation and building the terror. And then we get this beautiful shot, this extreme close-up of the monster when he walks in. 3 different extreme close-ups of him, showing him from different angles. So we see what the hell he looks like. It's just great, masterful filmmaking. What do you guys think about James Whale?
There are so many like little shots that I love in this movie that like I just notice them every time I watch it. And I'm like, there's one where Henry is like kind of running to the door, and he's like in his like castle or wherever they are, but like he is like running to the door, and like the camera like kind of goes with him through a wall, and it looks so cool, and I freaking love that.
That's some cool stuff. Is they just, instead of hiding the set, they make use of the fact that it's a set and go across it like he's going through the wall. That's a great shot. So yeah, that is good. That's great. What do you think, Derek?
Cool things.
So I'm not I know no one here is really a historian. You're the closest person that I know who's a historian of filmmaking. So it's hard for me to appreciate
also Roman Greco history as well.
Well, there you go. But it's hard for me to appreciate those things because it's lost in translation because I don't have the knowledge to know that at this period of time, like, these were groundbreaking maneuvers and things like that. Like, I don't know when sound was introduced into a movie, and so the fact that he is able to, the fact that he's able to play on that where some other directors were able to adapt with that, I mean, it's a testament to you, I think, and your knowledge of films in general. I wish I had that, man.
Yeah,
but it's very fascinating stuff.
Well, you and I talked a little bit off mic about James Whale. I told you a little bit about him as a person, and James Whale was an openly gay man in 1930s Hollywood, which I think very much colored this movie. I think the monster is a surrogate for Whale in a lot of ways. That's why his lens is always with empathy for the monster. The monster has to get his comeuppance in the end because it's a 1930s Hollywood horror movie. But our loyalties are on the side of the monster. Make no mistake. You know,
Yeah.
we see him through a sympathetic light and the sympathetic lens. And so I just love that he is so attracted to the outsider because of his own experience, that he would gravitate, probably even unintentionally originally, to the monster.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So yeah, Whale's direction is awesome, but it gets even better with Bride, I think. It's just in the cinematography in Bride, but the techniques that they develop in these movies, and you touched on it a little bit actually, Derek, when you talked about older movies having like a staginess. This one flows really well, and it has intricate shots, moving shots, and not just stilted. Let's put the camera here, and we're going to shoot it, and he's going to walk into frame, which was kind of the norm, ish. It wasn't. Horror movies in Germany were doing some crazy stuff by this point. The German Expressionism movement was just wild. We get stuff like Caligari and Nosferatu. We're seeing these Dutch camera angles and these sharp, harsh sets in these beautiful visual images. But in Hollywood filmmaking, we weren't seeing that until the German Expressionism movement came to Hollywood. Karl Freund, who was the cinematographer of Todd Browning's Dracula, brought a lot of that as well. But these influences are still were felt, and these step forwards were so big in Hollywood filmmaking, especially horror. Nobody expected Dracula to be the hit it was, not to the extent it was. And that's why all those early Universal movies look so great and sound so great, is because they were A pictures. They were big budget studio pictures, instead of in the 50s cycle, they get relegated to B movies. But in the 30s, these were A pictures. These were A plus, big budget movies. So it's fascinating that the way it worked out.
Do you think that the saturation of horror movies led to that?
To the B movie movement?
Yeah.
To them losing, but I think the box office, yes. I think it's the box office returns were started to get less, but more importantly, if they cut the budget, they still make roughly the same amount of money. They get a bigger profit.
Mm-hmm.
So they just started, like you can start to tell, like when they start doing some savvy things, like reusing later in time. They start reusing sets from A pictures, like, oh, the new Robin Hood created this set. Let's set it in here, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which is savvy filmmaking. But yeah, I think that the importance, this Dracula in this were a big 1-2 punch that solidified horror as a viable genre for film or for audience goers, because that was the big thing. There's a great bit. We'll talk about, like I said, this isn't Dracula, but it's important to this. In the Making of Dracula documentary on the Universal home video release, there's a commentary by the writer of Dracula Dead and Loving It. And in his audio commentary, he reads an article from 1929, 1930, when they're talking these letters from editors, either sent to the editor or sent to Universal, Universal had scooped up the rights to make Dracula, and talking about how disgusting it is that they're making this piece of trash. It's nothing but blood, blood, blood. Oh, just gross stuff. And Carl Laemmle Jr. took the chance, because he enjoyed these macabre stories, to make this movie, and it started the horror boom. Horror movies as a mainstream genre exists because of these two movies. This 1-2 punch of Dracula and Frankenstein.
That was actually one of the
in my opinion,
really a question.
Open to interpretation, but that's my opinion. Yeah.
It would be very interesting to read. Like, I don't know that if critics were a thing in 1931.
Oh, they were. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would love to see how people interpreted this movie. I mean, it would be very fascinating to see, one, did they like them, or two, like what type of impact it had on them if they liked it.
I can tell you there's definitely contemporary reviews that you can read about these movies that are interesting. They were critically well received. This one especially was critically well received. Dracula was super well received by the audience, obviously. And critics were like slightly stagey. Stuff that we kind of still feel today. But it still was terrifying to people. It was scary. And this was super scary to people because it's definitely the sleeker of the two. Because I just think Whale's a better filmmaker. And I like Todd Browning, but Whale's a better filmmaker when it comes down to it. Let's talk about one of my favorite scenes in the movie, which is a almost shot-for-shot recreation of Caligari. It's a scene where the monster sneaks in to Elizabeth's quarters on their wedding day. And he's slowly, in the background, creeping up on her. What do you guys think of that scene?
I laughed. This watch that made me laugh pretty good. It just gets me every time. I also have to say that I am obsessed with her wedding dress. She looks so gorgeous. I'm like,
Yeah,
that's
she
the
is
kind of
gorgeous.
dress I would want. And she is so long and like lacy and beautiful.
Yeah.
Out of here.
Yeah, I love that scene. I think it's, especially if you put yourself in 1931, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
I think
happens
even
a lot
now,
in those movies.
yeah, I think it's even scary now to the thought of somebody sneaking up behind you and you being unaware, and then it being like a fucking 7-foot giant green guy.
I don't know how you could tell he was green on the poster because it was in
The
black
poster.
and white.
Yeah, well, in
But anyway,
color photographs. Yeah.
yeah, no, yeah, there's like he goes to sneak up on her and then she turns around and walks away.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't notice that this lumbering person is in the room with her.
Yeah, it's kind of a great cat and mouse bit because you're expecting him to get to her sooner.
Yeah.
There is something that always does make me laugh is when she sees him and yells, he goes, "Rawr!"
Oh
No,
my gosh,
there's a
yes.
close up on his face when he does it, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Rawr.
Dude, me and Jake were dying laughing and like impersonating that.
It's one of the best.
We had to,
so
like,
funny.
We had to pause and rewind the movie because we were just stuck on that for so long.
Yeah, it's good.
Man, the next time I sneak up on my wife and she turns around, I'm gonna go. "Rawr."
You should. That would be terrifying. But I just love the staging of it and the way the shot is, the framing of the shot is really good and really cool. But it's definitely influenced by Caligari. It's the Caligari scene where he's sneaking up on her at night in the bedroom. Just reversed, kind of. Like, I think that's coming from a different side. I think Frankenstein comes from the left and Caligari from the right, maybe. I could be wrong. I haven't seen Caligari in a while. But that's those German expressionist influences that we were talking about earlier. So, yeah, great stuff. I like that scene a lot. So the monster kills 3 people in this movie.
I think so, yeah.
He kills Dr. Vautman by like breaking his neck,
Strangling.
essentially.
Yeah.
Strangling, breaking his neck. He accidentally kills the girl, drowns her. And then he kills
Henry.
well, no, Henry doesn't die.
Oh, that must be part of the movie that got cut off because he throws him off
Fritz.
the
He kills Fritz.
windmill.
Yeah, he throws him off the windmill, but he survives.
Ah,
So Fritz was the other death. Which, by the way, the fact that they show Fritz hanging by the whip is pretty gnarly for 1931.
yeah,
You know? That's
for sure.
pretty gnarly. Pretty gnarly. Yeah, let's talk about the last act. The whole... This is where the trope starts. This is where the villagers with pitchforks and torches comes from.
They're
And
not
it's
tiki
great.
torches, but they're torches.
Yeah, that's true. What do you guys think of this whole third act?
So like starting from like the wedding getting crashed.
Yeah.
And like panic ensues, and everybody is like, "There's a monster running in town," and the father brings the daughter who was drowned, and all this
Yeah.
is happening. And
Yeah.
there's
Ratchets
there's a
everything up.
scene where yes, and there, which is such an emotional scene. I feel like
Yeah, when
But-
he has the daughter. Yeah.
yes, that is heartbreaking to see. But I just want to touch on the scene where Victor and Henry are talking, and Henry is like, "If anything happens to me, I want you to take care of her." Like, and he like is like, because he knows that they love each other and that he's
Yeah.
a good person, and he like trusts him that much. Like they all just like care about each other.
Oh, it's
crazy.
definitely a love triangle. Definitely a love
Yes.
triangle
and
going
he,
on
but
here.
he's like he's trusting and loving and like appreciates him still. Like even though he knows, you know, I just think
Yeah.
that gets me. But he's like, I want you to take care of her. Like you take care of her. Like
I would've said-
I trust you.
I said, have you met Elizabeth? She can take care of herself.
Yeah, I mean that's true. But like
That dame's got spunk,
because
I
he
can tell you
didn't-
this.
he didn't mean it like that. He meant it
Oh,
like
I know.
from a different place. And that's a cool scene to see.
So the third act itself, let's talk about the set design real fast, because I love the set design in this movie. It's very gothic and really cool. Like our opening graveyard scene, I love the backdrop. The matte painting behind him is just the backdrop painting is so beautiful. And then when they're in the mountains, I love that backdrop too. And the way it's just lit. It's so cool.
I think that one is the most stagey part
Yeah.
because
Well-
you can really see it.
Yeah, it's because
Really
the
see
angle
that
they shot it.
painting.
But it's still very pretty and it looks very nice.
Yeah, it looks cool, yeah, for sure.
But and it's expressionistic. But this scene where he's being chased by the villagers, first of all, had to have cost some money because you have a ton of extras with pitchforks and torches. And I'm going to talk about the torches here because Henry fights with the monster and the torch, and he like gets his leg fucking burnt off and shit, man. And it's Colin Clive. There's a live flame here on the ground, and they're like wrestling around it. That's crazy.
Yes. Like that is not CG, people.
No, just a live open flame on the ground here.
Are you telling me
And,
they
like-
didn't have stunt doubles in the?
They did, but that wasn't him. That was him.
That wasn't scripted.
You can clearly see it. Yeah, it
To
wasn't
have-
scripted for him to land on it. You could totally see
Embers
that
and
it's him.
things flying everywhere.
So we end in the windmill. The monster takes Henry up to the windmill, and now I know what you guys are thinking. Well, I know what you should be thinking. Why does the monster take him up to a windmill? Why? Right? Does this bother you ever? Why does he just randomly take him up to a windmill? I'm going to answer your question. Here's why.
I'm gonna give you. It was his birthplace.
No. Here's why. Well, kind of. Yes. Because in the original script, there's also a line that his dad says when he's talking about why is it, there's another woman involved, isn't there? And she's like, no. And he's like, what's he doing up there all alone in a ruined windmill? In the original script, Frankenstein's castle that he's doing the experiments in was actually the windmill. And they just never changed that line in the script. That somehow got past it. And they still have the finale in the windmill because they just had it set up that way. But the reason that he drags him to the windmill in the script is because that's where his home is. He's taking his father home.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
That's good, right? Great writing.
It is.
But what are
I
you
feel
gonna
like
do?
that
What
gets
are you gonna do?
lost in the because it feels more like he's pushed there by the ensuing
Yeah, which is kind of
people.
the way they film it,
It
which
does
makes
look
sense
that
because
way.
they need a reason for him to be there is why.
Yeah,
But in the
Yeah.
original
running away, and
script,
that's the closest building.
yeah, in the original script, it's because that's home.
Yeah, no, I
Just
like
with
that
no-
way.
on a
I like
mountain.
that way better
Yeah.
than them just pursuing him to the point where, oh, this is the only place I can go. I'll go
Yeah.
to the very top.
So,
Interesting.
yes, Henry gets thrown. You alluded to it. Henry gets thrown off the windmill, and dude looks pretty violent and terrible. Like that dummy just bam slams right
Yeah.
into that windmill and eats
That
it.
dummy almost looks perfect.
Yeah,
like
it does. It's
human
I
really
wonder
good.
how many takes they had to do, or if it was inadvertent, because it
One
looks
shot.
great.
Yeah,
And they're just like, we're going to keep it because it looks great.
it's a great image. Yeah,
Yeah. And then he falls off the windmill onto the blade onto the ground.
yeah. Then they
I like
catch
that a lot.
that
I like that
mofo.
ending.
Yeah, they catch him on fire. The monster burns with the windmill, right? And then we get the shot that we find out Henry's alive because in the script Henry dies. Henry is killed by his monster. Henry meets his hubris, right?
Mhm.
I mean but the test audiences liked Henry, and the studio they wanted to keep Henry alive. So that's why we get the next scene with Henry laying in bed with Elizabeth in the Baron doing his whole bit talking to everybody that we end on is because they wanted to keep him alive. Now, for the purpose of this story, do you think it would have been better if he died?
Way better.
But you can't have him die because then you won't have Bride of Frankenstein. So I'm perfectly
So if
fine
it
with
had
him
Bride of
living.
Frankenstein.
It wouldn't have been the same. Frankenstein has to live in order to create the bride. Nobody else knows how to do it.
Yeah, but nobody knew there was going to be a Bride of Frankenstein movie when this came out.
Well, they figured once the box office receipts started coming in, they knew.
They could have done something.
No, I like that he lives. I like that he lives. It's a running thing, actually, because he's actually supposed to die at the end of Bride as well, and he lives.
He's like a cat, man. He's got 9 lives.
He does.
So you're saying it's good that he keeps living. It just probably doesn't make as much sense as him dying. Like in just the
Story structure wise, absolutely, he should get his comeuppance. He should die. But the reason that Bride of Frankenstein works is because he's learned his lesson from the events of Frankenstein in that movie. He's completely learned his lesson. He has to be blackmailed in order to create the bride. It's not like he's just like, let's do it. He's learned his lesson. And so it's kind of a redemption arc. And the third movie, we find out that he and Elizabeth move off together, have kids, and he lives his life, and these kids inherit the castle after he's gone, and that's where we get Son of Frankenstein, which is also fucking fantastic. Let's talk about it. I think Son of Frankenstein's the best looking of the original 3 Frankenstein movies. Very German expressionist. It's beautiful. We'll talk about it sometime. But in a nutshell, that's Frankenstein. James Whale's 1931 horror masterpiece. What do you guys think of Frank? Do you guys have anything else you want to talk about before we get into the ratings? You want to talk about how Fritz was the first hunchback assistant that we ever see. And
That's
people
funny.
mistake him for Igor, which doesn't appear until Ghost of Frankenstein, or Son of Frankenstein.
I thought he was going to be Igor.
That's because
because
pop
it's
culture, man.
100%.
Igor
And then they
doesn't
were
appear
like,
until
Fritz,
Son.
who is Fritz?
Fritz is the first assistant.
When you're applying for the job. So what happened to your last assistant?
He got
We
murdered
don't
by
talk about that.
He got murdered by my creation. But let's just move on.
Yeah.
Or what would be great? It's like, the job interview. It's like, what happened to the last assistant? Oh, he's hanging around.
Yeah. You might see him around the castle.
Here all week. So, guys, what are your thoughts on Frankenstein? Let's start with you, Lydia. What are your thoughts on Frankenstein, and what would you rate this bad boy? What's wrong with me tonight? Have some kind of issues.
Dang, I didn't really think about a rating for this. I was just like,
Lydia,
this is a great
we've been
movie.
doing
I
this for a
love
year
it.
and a half.
I just, for some reason, I'm like, how do you compare this movie to?
Well, you can't compare it to like
Just don't compare
Drag
it.
Me to Hell. They're completely different
Exactly.
things. Yeah.
Exactly. So I like to rate things on if I would recommend this movie to people, which I definitely would.
Mhm.
So I guess that makes it a pretty high rating.
I rate it on how much I love it or how it makes me feel. So I rate movies.
Okay.
Also, if they're
I know,
terrible or
but-
not.
But then I give everything a 10 and you guys judge me for giving
No,
everything a 10
do
all
it.
the
If you
time.
want to give it a 10, give it a 10.
Have
I don't
never
judge.
judged you.
I did back-to-back 9s, lady. Just Lost Boys and Drag Me to Hell were both 9s to me, and I did not care. By the way,
All right.
the Lost Boys look so cool, in case you guys didn't know that. I don't know if I got that point across in the episode.
I'm going to give this one a 9.
Okay, great.
A 9 it is. Just a few little nitpicky things that I don't even want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, 9. That's great.
I like it's like you have to watch. I own this movie four different times, I think. So it's it's pretty high up there for me.
Can I go last?
You want to go last?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to break tradition and all that shit, fine, whatever. You want to be a format buster, you son of a no. Yeah, you can go last, man. I will give Frankenstein a 9 as well. The reason I'm not giving it a 10, I just went 3 9s in a row. People are gonna be like, Jamie is a 9 whore. And you know what? At me, bro. At me. Yeah, it's a great movie. It really is. It's a very well made movie. It's really fun. I had a good time watching it. It's fast. It's not boring. It doesn't move at a snail's pace. It moves at a pretty good clip for a movie that's near 100 years old. And it's it's like it's 70 minutes, you know? So it's under 80 minutes. It meets my rule. And it's it's very influential. I would almost want to give it a 10, but I like the sequel better. So it's a 9 for me. What do you think, Derek?
So I had a really hard time trying to rate this movie, and that's why I wanted you two to go first.
Figured.
I wanted to see what your rating was, because I don't have that historical appreciation for this movie. I watched this movie and it seems fine to me, and the fact that it was groundbreaking at the time, like I wouldn't know that if I hadn't listened to your commentary. So I'm going to let you influence me a little bit because I am ignorant on this topic, and I'm going to give this movie an 8. Because it for it being almost 100 years old, I felt like the characters really did a great job, the actors in this movie specifically, because the way that he brought the character to life, Carlisle in Frankenstein, and then
Karloff. Yeah.
Karloff, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Karloff. And also Henry. I really liked Henry. I thought
Yeah.
his line delivery was really great. I thought his dialogue was really interesting for the time.
Yeah, there's a scene that we didn't talk about where he and Dr. Votman are talking right before the monster comes in, right before we meet the monster.
Yeah. I think I know where you're going with this. And that's where he was like, if you dream, if you aspire to like, something along the lines of like, you wonder what's out there amongst the stars. He was like, you'll you'll be considered a madman. Essentially,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, you're
botching it.
paraphrasing, but yeah,
Yeah, and
basically.
and that is it's fascinating to hear that dialogue in a movie from the 30s.
Yeah, it's very philosophical. And
It is very philosophical.
And also you get into his mindset because he's like really like there's only 2 scenes in the movie where he's not kind of manic. It's this one and the love scene that he has with Elizabeth, where he and Elizabeth are sitting in the garden and they're talking after he passes out from the monster fight the first time. And he's really smooth and debonair in these scenes. Like in the first one especially, he's got like his hair slicked back. He looks like $1,000,000. He looks great. He's like, patience, being all fucking cool with the doctor and stuff. And then there's that turn, that switch where Votman says, they took an abnormal brain. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's of no consequence, really. I created this. There's also a line where he says, with my own hands, which is great. Feeding that God complex that he's kind of having.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So 8 for you, Derek?
Yep. I'm giving it 8.
Did you enjoy this more than you thought you would?
Yeah, I would say I did. Because I tell you, I don't like older movies. They have never really appealed to me. This was a good movie. It was entertaining. It's good to watch.
Great. All right, there's our ratings. Great for Frankenstein. All right, guys, you know what time it is.
Yep, time to slime that.
Time to Atkinize this movie.
That's why God made fathers, babe. That's why God made fathers.
Who would Tom Atkins play in James Whale's Frankenstein? Let's start with you, Lydia.
Probably Victor.
I'm with you, 100% Victor.
I'd go with Fritz.
It's got to be Victor. The only downside is she would have left fucking Henry's ass in a second.
Yeah.
For Tom Atkins as Victor.
Oh, yeah.
Can you imagine he'd walk in, thrill me. She's like, have you heard from Henry? Who?
Who? Never heard of
It's
Henry.
like God created fathers, babe.
He's like, your fiance. What? Yeah. Yeah,
Why Henry
Victor for
created
sure.
monsters, babe.
That's why
God created monsters.
That's why
babe,
Henry
yeah.
created monsters, babe. That's why Henry created monsters.
Dude, can that be a shirt?
It can be. Can be now.
Yeah, do it.
People be like, Henry.
I still want that. We still need to make the shirt of Tom Atkins' face that says, like, he's attractive.
Yeah.
From the
We
fog.
still need a mailman shirt, too.
Oh, definitely need a mailman shirt. Comment if you guys want the mailman shirt.
You know what? I'm going to put this out there. I don't need a comment. Next week, if you tune in, you're going to hear the Brown story.
Oh, it's happening.
It's going to happen next week, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Or tune back in. If you stay tuned that long, that's a long time, though.
Yeah, tune back in. That's true. Yeah.
I think I have something scheduled that night.
All right, Derek, it is your turn to pick this next week's episode. What are we going to watch?
Well,
I like that.
After much deliberation.
Oh my gosh. What is it?
I know, anticipation.
And I actually think that this one's going to be better than the last one.
You did Lost Boys last time.
I know, but before that, I think this one's going to be better than the last one.
Wait. You think it's going to be better than
know
Lost
what it
Boys?
No, it's going to be
Okay.
better than the first version of this, the original.
Oh,
This
okay.
is the sequel. We're going to go with Critters 2,
Oh, God.
The New Batch.
Critters Critters 2.
Why?
Yeah.
Only 20 people watched the first one.
Brad Brown is back in town. The boy who cried critters.
Let's think about this for a moment. We just did a Critters movie.
Yeah.
Nobody watched it.
This is my
And
redemption
you want
arc.
to do another one?
This is I get to redeem myself.
How about let's give a little break for Critters and pick something else?
And pick Puppet
I mean,
Master
it's this
4.
or Rawhead Rex. Which would you rather watch?
Rawhead Rex, probably.
That
Just
is a
because-
lie. That is a lie. Fine.
Well, I think
You
our
want
audience
Rawhead
would.
Rex? They don't want to watch Rawhead Rex, but you know what? Now they're going to. Now they're going to be like, I can't wait to listen to them talk about Rawhead Rex.
I think more people would be doing that than Critters. Nobody listened to that episode.
Hey, you know what?
Unfortunately.
Because they were like, oh man, it's not Critters 2. I'll tune in when that one is done.
Nobody thinks it's better than the first one.
Yes, it's totally better.
Gonna
It's up
find
to you.
out.
Whatever one you want to do. If you want to do Critters 2, then we can do it.
Nope. Let's do Rawhead Rex.
I like how those are your only two options. Out of all the movies in the world, it's either Rawhead Rex or Critters 2. A terrible movie and a movie nobody wants to listen to. Oh, that's brilliant. That's fucking brilliant. So which one are we doing? Critters 2?
Nope.
Okay, Rawhead Rex.
Yep.
Rawhead Rex it is.
And it's not a condoms commercial. It's a real movie.
Are we
That was a
doing
great
that?
joke, you guys. What'd you say?
Let's see.
Okay, what are we doing for real?
Rawhead Rex. It used to be on YouTube.
Rawhead Rex is available for free on Tubi.
To be or not to be.
So Rawhead Rex, interesting. You know, Rawhead Rex was written by Clive Barker. Yeah.
Did you guys even hear my condoms joke? It was a great
Yeah,
one.
we heard it. We just skipped through it. Mainly because I was still thinking about the fact that you tried to pick fucking Critters too. Knowing the metrics of the channel.
You know, I'm trying to rekindle that magic that I had with
Lumberjack Man?
Lumberjack Man, yeah.
Trying to?
Yep.
Dude, yeah.
Rekindle the flame.
Rawhead Rex will be interesting. I'm interested to watch this. Lydia's you never seen this?
No.
Good. I'm interested to see you watch it.
Crazy.
Audience is going to watch it. It is a screenplay by Clive Barker. It is a film made in 1986 by it's an Irish film. It's an experience. It's an experience. Just think about this. This came out the year before Hellraiser, which is a movie you totally could have picked, Derek. By the way, it's a movie that exists, one that we haven't done.
This
But
one's
looks
in
like-
the books, man.
Looks like we're doing Rawhead Rex. I know what I'm picking next week. I already know what I'm picking. Lydia, do you want me to tell you what we're doing the week after so you feel better?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, so 2 weeks from now I'm going to break tradition since Derek busted it already earlier. And I might cut this from the episode, but I'm telling you so you know. 2 weeks from now, we're going to do Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's what I was gonna pick.
Well, do you want to pick it or do you want me to do it?
No, I want you to do it
Okay, so Texas Chainsaw.
so we can watch
There
it
you go.
sooner because I was like, I want to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I
can't
told
believe you
Derek
said
today. I'm going to let you guys in a little inside baseball. When Derek and I talked yesterday, I literally was trying to influence his opinion by saying, nice. I was like, you know what? It's summertime. Texas Chainsaw would be a good one.
Yes.
And then he's like, Chris 2!
Amazing.
It'd been one thing if Critters had like I don't know, 4,000 views in a week, and we're like, oh man, Critters is People really like that one, but that it's our lowest rated episode in like 2 months. Derek's like, let's do Critters.
We don't do this for the views. We don't do this for the views. We do
do it for the
talk about
love.
movies.
For the love.
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We talk about movies.
All you've done in this is prolong the inevitable, because we will get to Critters 2. You mark my words.
Oh, I know. I bet you it's coming up in 2 weeks.
There's at least a better than 35% chance that you're right.
I like how you punished us for making fun of your Critters 2 pick by making us watch Raw and Red.
They're not even making
wasn't
us
like-
watch Critters 2.
Yeah, instead of being like, oh, you know what? You're right. Maybe I should pick something else that's more topical or that is exciting. You're like, fuck you guys. Rawhead Rex. So definitely tune in next week for Rawhead Rex, because it's going to be wild. It's going to be a wild night. Even more wild than tonight, which for some reason was a crazy one. I was a little on my game. Derek was on his. Lydia's always on hers. Wild stuff. I became Johnny Carson at the end there. Wild stuff for all those audience members that remember Johnny Carson. I'm dating myself big time now.
Yep.
You're like Ed McMahon, Derek.
All right. So, did Ed McMahon ever do Publishers Clearinghouse?
No. He did a similar company to Publishers Clearinghouse.
Called.
I don't remember what it's called.
You know what? I'm not even going to go there. But you know what I'm thinking.
You're all about the damn Mandela effect, Derek is.
Yep.
What was that noise?
What was
That-
that noise?
That one?
It's a terrible, creepy noise. Sound like you should be directing Jeepers Creepers movies with that noise.
All right, fine. Next time I'm going to
It
go.
was right here.
Oh, man. You're right. I'm very offensive tonight. That was terrible. That was a terrible joke I just said.
We've gone
All right.
so far off the rails.
We're off the rails. We are. That's what, right? I guess that's what. I don't know what vehicle we're in when that happens.
It's like the shittiest helicopter that ever flew.
Which apparently is on rails because we're off of rails. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please. It helps the channel grow. We need your comments to pick movies so we don't end up watching fucking Critters 2 every week. The rest of this, I know. Until we get to part 4, Derek's going to try to pick it every week now. Look what happens. So you guys need to give us some picks for movies you'd like us to review. We will totally take those into account. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Email questions if you want to screambloodymail@gmail.com. You can find us on social media, on Facebook at HiLa Productions, on Instagram at Scream Bloody Movies. You can find us all on Twitter. Find Lydia at Lydia is Spooky. Find Derek at DDogLeeMaster. And you can follow me at Racket, where you'll hear all of my great Bond takes. Also, we'll have some news coming up in the next couple weeks about a possible project that's... 2 projects are in the works. One that is maybe news about a Halloween short. And then news about the feature that we are working on. So stay tuned for those. If there's nothing else, for Derek Lemaster and Lydia Judy, I am Jamie Hiles. And remember, guys, if you're going to scream bloody movies. See you next week.